I am so excited about that topic. Okay, so let's gonna go ahead and get started. As you guys saw, is $50 too much for your child's education? That has been the big question all over the internet for the past 2 months as school has just started. And it's just been very interesting to watch. I've heard so many different perspectives on it. And that's exactly what we're gonna be getting into today. All right. So we're gonna go ahead and get started with, let me make sure I got everything set up. We have 2 minutes, so we're gonna kind of wait and see if anybody comes into the live. All right, just kind of introduce myself. My name is Miss Education. I'm Miss Education on TikTok, but here I am Miss Asia the Educator. I am a certified teacher of over 10 years who turned homeschool mom. So I am here to help you as a parent grow into this space. Okay, be an advocate for your child. It's all for me. It's all about rigor. It's all about excellence, and that's what we are bringing on this channel. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and let's see. All right, I am going to go crazy. There is like a fly in here, and I cannot stand flies. They're just so annoying, but it's okay. We're still gonna get into it. So I'm trying to get back into my lives. Usually I'm gonna start doing pop-up lives. I will say Friday. I would say this day or that day. But if you guys love the type of content or you end up loving what I have to put down here, go ahead and do that on my live. Okay, you can click on my live and then it'll kind of show you the events. I kind of try to schedule them a day or maybe even a week out. So we're gonna go ahead and today we're talking about how parents, whether your kids are in public school or private school or homeschool, they play the biggest role in educational success. Okay, we'll be looking at real research, some surprising facts, and I'll be giving you practical ways to advocate for your child. Okay, so we're gonna first start off with that with the whole dilemma that I've been seeing all over the internet, and people are in an uproar about school supplies. Okay, which is crazy, right? $50. The average person for elementary school, they spend $30 to $50, right? Hello, greetings, bones. Greetings, everybody. Welcome to my live. So, $30 to $50. That's how much money the average family spends on one child, okay? However, it becomes a big thing if, some parents, they're like, hey, I don't want to buy school supplies. Why? When it's $30 to $50. But then yet, these same parents, I'm just saying the ones that I've seen on TikTok and these different viral videos, you're buying your child Jordans, you're buying them the latest computer, you're buying them whatever, the case may be. So I just find it very interesting. And I feel like the fact that you don't want to buy your child that type of school supplies, don't want to buy your child school supplies, but you kind of want to buy them other things that they want versus what they need, which is a good education. It becomes so crazy. Okay, so I have some facts that kind of go along with that. So this back to school season, families spend on average $890 on school supplies per child, the highest we've ever seen. Parents are frustrated. Kids want the latest sneakers, the technology. Meanwhile, the basics like pencils, binders, calculators, that feels like a luxury. Okay, and like I said, the school supplies itself is only $30 to $50 per child. Okay, for middle school it goes up a little bit. It's between $50 to $80, and then for high school, it's it can range from $50 to $100 depending on what type of high school, depending on what your child is doing. Okay, so tonight I want to ask the real question: if we're struggling to afford supplies, how do we also make sure we're investing in what matters most? Our child's education. So that's what this live is all about, okay? Whether your child is in public school, private school, or homeschool, we'll be talking about what research says and how to advocate for your kids and how to send the message loud and clear: education matters, okay? So for those parents that decide, hey, I don't want to drop the school supplies, that kind of shows yourself. It kind of shows your kids, hey, education is not important to me. Okay? You'll figure it out, right? And it also tells the child's teacher, hey, I'm not into all that. And then some people were saying, hey, I would like to, there's another perspective of it saying, hey, I don't mind buying my kids school supplies, but I don't want to buy any extras for other people, which kind of shows another character flaw as well. So you mean that you're not willing to give or help another person. All right, so what do y'all think about that school supplies, the whole school supplies dilemma? Do you agree? Do you disagree? If that is you, you can go ahead and talk about that in the comments. I would love to hear from you. And also, this is a live recording, so if you're watching this after it has been dropped, I try to do this as much as possible. I do pop-up lives. That's what I call them, where I pop in and pop out. Okay, if you would like to know, like, what I have scheduled, you can go ahead and look at my lives up there. All right. So here's my first nugget. So why parent involvement matters. Okay, so according to proven research by NCPI, students with involved parents are more likely to earn higher grades, attend regularly, we're talking about public school, attend regularly, like the school or whatever it can be, and graduate. Okay, so yes, it starts with school supplies, but it branches out into more. It kind of shows your child, hey, I value your education. I am here for you. Okay, the U.S. Department of Education in article in 2019 says that parent involvement outweighs income in predicting student success. Okay, so if you want your child to be successful, be there. Okay, be there for your child. All right, being there, and that's just not. Of course, we were talking about monetarily, but we're talking about monetarily. We're talking about in time. We're talking about in teaching them morals and character. You as a parent, you are the first line of defense for your child's success. Okay, so if you're dropping the ball, guess what? Most likely the ball is also going to be dropped on your child as well. Okay, so how many of you feel the supply lists get longer every year, and yet how many of us are also guilty of spending more money on holidays and clothes than books or learning tools? Okay, I think I'm preaching to another, so I'm gonna say that question again. How many of you feel school supplies gets longer every year? Okay, so when the school supplies come out, you're like, oh my gosh, look at all this. That's your attitude, right? Especially if you're talking about public school. And yet, how many of us are also guilty spending more money on holidays and clothes than books or learning? Hey, Chloe, greetings, welcome. Right, so it's like, what gives here? What really gives? And it's all the content of your heart. Because guess what? If you think something is valuable, you're going to spend your money on it. So if you're finding, and this is for anybody. So we're talking about, I am a homeschool mom. So I'm talking to my public school parents, private school, and homeschool parents. If you are investing in your child, whatever that may look like, okay, and you decide that, hey, I'm just going to really focus on what my child wants. He wants this name brand. He wants that. Yada, yada, yada. He wants the newest game. He or she wants the finest clothes, whatever. Over, hey, they need a laptop for school. Let me go ahead and get them a laptop. Let me go ahead and get them, that coding camp or something like that, right? Or, hey, my child's a little behind. Let me go ahead and get them maybe some workbooks to work over the summer, right? If you're kind of like frowning at what they need versus what they want, you got to check yourself as a parent. You just have to do it. Okay? So that is one of the other points that I want to make. And of course, if you have any answers to that question that I just said, what are your thoughts on that? All right, for me, I'm all about needs. So for my kiddos, I will gladly drop a bag on some things that they need from, if they need some socks, or it can be, which is fine. Sometimes kids need clothes, but sometimes they don't, right? Sometimes they need just, hey, let me go ahead and get them for us is a quality curriculum that I've been researching, that I've been learning, investing in technology to kind of help them so that my homeschool day goes. It's something as simple as giving them great nutrition, right? And not giving them a bunch of junk. Okay, so if you're finding yourself kind of torn between the two, really think about that, okay? Think about your child's needs and wants, and if you're more on the want side because of guilt or because you're not there, self-reflect, and change those actions. So our next thing we're going to be talking about is money and priorities. Okay, so if education is too expensive, where are families really overspending? Okay, and especially my homeschool people, you already know. I've seen a lot of videos on buying this curriculum, and I've kind of looked through some curriculums, and I've been kind of like peeping through different homeschoolers on YouTube, TikTok, etc. And it's a bag a lot of homeschool parents drop on their kids for education, which is wonderful. Okay, but there also are some that are like, I rather do this than that. So it depends on what type of parent you are and what you value for your child and what it takes for your child to be successful. So here are some more statistics that I have. So we're going to go ahead and tie it back to the supplies. So we're frustrated about the cost, and of course we're talking about the school supplies or whatever case may be, school supplies debate. We're frustrated about the cost of notebooks and crayons, but Americans will still spend over $1,000 per child on gifts, sports, and entertainment. Let that sink in, okay? We are uptight. I'm not saying me, but some of us are uptight about a $30 to $50 supply list for your child's education, right? Or maybe you're kind of huffing and puffing because the homeschool material that you have is just not, you're just like, geez, I gotta spend this. But on average, a lot of us spend a lot of money on gifts, sports, entertainment. So birthdays, Christmas, all this other stuff, willy-nilly, but then become very frugal when it comes to things that maybe our child needs. This isn't about shaming. It's about realigning our priorities. If your child sees you hesitate to buy a book, but rush to the newest iPhone. Can I get an amen? But rush to the newest iPhone, what message does that send? Okay, go ahead and drop in the chat if you had an extra $200 to spend this month. Would you put it towards supplies and learning tools or towards entertainment and fun? Okay, so if you had the choice between the extra $200, where would your priorities lie? Okay, I'm very curious to hear in the comments or on the chat. All right, for me, if I had an extra $200, I would probably put it towards something they need, which is probably their bank accounts, honestly. So if we're talking about this money was going toward my kids, I'll probably put it in their savings account or whatever, so that we can go for other goals, because they already have everything they need for school. All right, I was a prior teacher, so I am blessed to have a little bit extra from all the years of me teaching, but that's where mine would go. But again, my priorities are always for the success of my children. We're really not into materialism like that, so I do not bat an eye for a new iPhone. I usually keep a phone for I promise you, y'all, I keep a phone for 7 to 10 years. No joke. I do not switch phones like that. So, and of course, if this is kind of tugging at your heartstrings, you're like, I'm always spending money. I'm always kind of following the newest materialistic craze that's going on. Reflect, and you can always change. All right. So now we're going to be talking about advocacies in school. So, I don't think a lot of parents, especially those on TikTok, understand what it speaks, not just about them as a parent, but what it says to the teacher, to your child. Like, say, for example, if you decide not to give school supplies or not to get your child school supplies or what they need for school, what that says to your child's teacher, what that says to your child's admin, and what that says to your child's school. So I'm going to kind of put this back on me from my experience as a teacher. So in the school system, I've always had 3 to 4 kids that did not have supplies. It always happens. I worked at a Title I school. If you don't know what Title I means, that means it's a bit of you have a higher percentage of kids. I believe it's over 50% of 40 to 50% of your population in your school has free or reduced lunch. Okay, so you're talking about, a little lower income, etc. So you get funding from the government to kind of help, with those different needs of your school because of those low fundings. So I would have people or kids that, maybe they're in foster care, or maybe they're switching from custody from mama to grandma or something like that, right? And they won't have school supplies. And I understand, sometimes that happens. Life happens, okay? If it's a once in a while, cool. But for me, I could always see that, you kind of see that the child wishes that their parents had, the basics to have their own school supplies, especially when you have other kids around you who have customized school supplies or their stuff is brand new and they're excited to like, put their stuff in their desk, and then you have the child where, hey, I don't have anything, so then they have to go to the office, they have to pick up a book bag because I don't have book bags in my class, but I do have everything else, and it just becomes a whole thing. So by you saying outrightly, even if you have the money, I'm not paying for the school supplies, guess what? The teacher is going to be like, okay, I'm assuming that you're not going to be an involved parent. From my perspective, when I saw that, and I was right majority of the time, okay, that means that whoever that child's parent or guardian is, they're not going to be involved in the school system. They're just not. They're just, not say they don't value education or a case may be, but that's usually what ends up happening, and it was very common. So you have to be a parent, you have to be an advocate for your child by showing up with supplies and showing up with time and showing up with all these other things that help your child grow. That is what is going to lead to longevity, and it's going to lead to your child's success when it comes to that type of thing. All right. So let's go ahead and go to. All right. So, and just, of course, being an advocate for your child. So not only do you need to show up with supplies, but you also need to show up for your kid in school in general. Okay, so know your child's teacher's name. If they give out their number or whatever case may be, take the teacher's number so you can always, or sometimes they have like a class dojo or something so you can message the teacher. Go ahead and do that. That's gonna really help set up your child for success, so you always know what's going on for them behavior wise, emotionally, academically, etc., and build those positive relationships with your child's teacher. And that's for anybody. So if any other person is teaching your child besides you, even in homeschool, those of you guys that have children who are online or the case may be, still try to build those relationships with those teachers that your child comes across online or in-person tutoring or whatever the case may be, and show up and be involved. Okay, be like, hey, what is a strength that my child had in so-and-so subject, whatever they're teaching them? Okay, is there anything that I can improve on at home? And then by doing that consistently, say if you just do it every 2 weeks, it's a 2-week check-in. Hey, message them or call them. Hey, I just want to see how little Jimmy's doing or whatever, or little Rebecca's doing today. Okay, and they'll tell you, and teachers love that. That means, hey, at least I'm not the only one pouring into this child. I have other people, a parent that's actually going to be doing the work for me as well, because honestly, teachers were already kind of overloaded anyway. So that is another one. And then, so of course, be an advocate. Have your child's back. If there's any problems that your child is having in school or whatever case may be, homeschool or case may be, EC, IEPs, they should know you. First name basis. Oh, hey, Miss So-and-so. How are you? You're here again? Yes. Yes, I am here again. I'm here because my child is, struggling with so-and-so, or there's a misunderstanding, etc. And it just, I'm telling you, your teachers teachers, admin, and the school will treat your children, or whoever is helping your children in any way is going to really be there for your kid. Now, some teachers, especially if it's not a teacher of excellence, honestly, sometimes some teachers, they could take advantage of the fact that you're not there and that you don't know what's happening with your child. There's so many times where a child it's the end of the school year. This is from my experience too. You've invited the parent to come. Hey, I'm trying to have a parent-teacher conference, etc. Can you just come in so we can talk about your child's progress, yada yada yada. And then all of a sudden, I'm not available throughout the whole year. And then maybe 2 months before school's out, you get that letter. Hey, your child's probably going to be retained. And then all of a sudden they're like, what? No one told me. You didn't show up for the meetings. You didn't come to the school events. Okay. You didn't have a conversation with your teacher on a regular basis. Those things are important. Okay. If you don't show up for your child, nobody else will. And they will treat your child based on how you show up for your child in the school system. Okay. But thank goodness, those of you guys that are homeschooled, you are obviously advocating for your child morning, noon, and night. All right. So even you have to show up. But us showing up as homeschool parents looks a little different because we can't just, unless our children are online. I think this kind of goes for those parents that have, outside help or outside tutoring or online or whatever it could be, and someone else is also teaching your child. But if you're the main person teaching your child, the same thing applies. However, you are, of course, spending quality time on curriculum, printers, ink, paper. That all adds up, right? But you're also taking the time to study and make sure that the goals that you set for your child is applicable, right? And that you're challenging your child, all right? And that you're giving them what they need, whatever that may be, whatever your goals are. I know each homeschool is different. So in our homeschool, I literally just have goals for them. I'm like, okay, my kids are in pre-K. Okay, well, one of my kids are in pre-K, the other one's in preschool. The difference is like the pre-K one is doing like pre-K/kindergarten curriculum stuff, and then the preschooler, she's just kind of just falling in where she falls in place, right? So with them, I just set simple goals. I'm like, okay, so we're going to count to 1 to 50. We're going to try to stupiditize numbers, okay? We're going to work on social emotional, okay? Listening skills, problem solving when playing, those type of things. So it depends on whatever goals you have. And that's one thing that I definitely would say for our homeschool parents to advocate for our children is to show up and to give them the best education that we can, whichever goals looks like for you. All right, so if you haven't already done that as a homeschool parent or even as a public school parent, go ahead and write down some goals you have for your child. Okay, maybe talk to their teacher. A lot of schools have been open for what, a good month now? All right, a good month and some change. Go ahead and go ahead and say, hey, can I talk to you, or can I, our public school teachers, our public school parents, can I talk to you for a little bit about what do you see in my child? Like, what are some strengths or what are some weaknesses that I can work on? So then you can work on academically, and then whatever values you have, whether that be, biblical principles that you want to teach your child, or, you want them to be a well-rounded, so maybe you want them to get involved in like sports or whatever, or some type of talent, music, whatever the case may be. Go ahead and write those goals out, and then go ahead and write out a plan to get to those goals by the end of the school year. Okay, and then just check off every month and think, hey, am I on track to completing these goals? I would say even to put it on an Excel sheet or even in a planner, and kind of go along with it that way. Setting goals, showing your child, or even if they're older enough, especially if they're able to read and write and stuff, see what kind of goals they have for themselves and help them with those goals, okay? So yes, for my homeschool parents, you are advocating for a quality education for your children, whatever that may be like, and sticking to those goals, understanding what milestones they need to be in, etc. If you're kind of more lax and you're like, our priority is this, or you're new to homeschool, you're trying to get your footing, whatever the case may be, the goal setting is definitely going to be a big game changer. Okay, so number 5. So of course I had like multiple points here. So my next point, and my final point, is practical. So here's some practical tips for all parents. All right, same everyday advocacy habits. Okay, so establish those everyday advocacy habits. So some of those habits involve reading daily. Okay, every child should be reading daily. Okay, and you should be also showing them to read. So if your child is kind of like, I'm not into books. I had a great conversation with my brother not too long ago, and he was saying, hey, like, your niece, she's really not into reading like that. I was like, well, how often do you read? He's like, well, I listen to audiobooks, da-da-da. I was like, that's probably why. I was like, you probably need to sit down with her and maybe you guys read through a chapter book together, right? And then kind of talk about, like it could be a nonfiction or fiction book, and kind of see if they're really into that, right? Your kids literally learned from what you are their first example. So if you're telling them, hey, you need to read, yada, 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 it's going to make you successful, and they barely ever see you reading, it's probably going to make them like, you're saying this, but your actions aren't speaking louder than your words, right? Actions speak louder than words. They do. So they're especially kids are smart. So they're going to be like, hey, like, you're telling me to do this, but here you are. You're always on your phone, right? Or you're always trying to be entertained, right? No, sit down, be like, hey, let's read a book together. Whether that be together and you sitting down and you read something that you maybe everybody should be always striving for self-improvement, but you sitting down, they should see you reading, your book. For me, especially if I want my kids to really read the Bible and take that time out, yes, I want them to see me reading my Bible. Okay? Whether that be, and sometimes I kind of do it on my phone if I'm like in my bed, but I do need to probably, this is something that I probably need to work on, a habit of opening up the actual word and taking notes and stuff like that. So whatever you want your child to do, you need to be doing that as well. That is a great everyday advocacy skill. So read daily, model what learning looks like. So for different things and so forth, if you want them to learn different things, especially my homeschool parents out there, modeling is also key. So modeling concepts, okay, modeling habits, all those things are going to show, hey, I care about your education. I care about your well-being. All right. What do you value? Show your kids in a homeschool and in public school, you're not just growing academically. You should be growing spiritually, mentally, emotionally, financially. And it kind of goes into all the leads. Okay? So when you're doing that, your child is going to pay attention to that and they're going to remember that. Okay? So, of course, I almost lost my train of thought there. But yes, doing that shows, hey, I value you. Okay? I value you. You are important to me. Okay? You're telling your child, your education is important to me. Your well-being is important to me. Who you are and you becoming successful, whatever that may look like for you, that is important to me. So establishing those goals and desires and showing that through action, showing that through words, and showing that through implementation and strategy, right? And also excellence. Okay, because we can't do any of those things without excellence. We're really going to be talking about that on this channel. So again, so we're going to tie it back to what the main thing was, which is like the school supply thing. So if you can't buy every single thing on a supply list, okay, say that's you. All right, we're going back to the supply controversy that's been on all over social media. If you can't buy every single thing on the supply list, don't beat yourself up. Focus on the tools that really support learning. Okay? Books, notebooks, pencils, and your time. Guys, literally, we are very blessed nowadays. Okay? In the fact that no matter what you don't know, you can learn it. And most of the things that you can learn for free. Okay? We have YouTube University here. Okay? Voila. We have Google. All right? We have so many different, the internet is just becoming something where you have no excuse. Okay? You never done an algebra problem in your life, or maybe you just don't remember. Guess what? They have plenty of YouTube videos, plenty of TikToks, plenty of Instagram posts, whatever. And whatever you want to learn about and however you want to get better. So if you notice that maybe you want to show up better for your child when it comes to education, and you just tie in whatever concept, say for example, you want them to get better at main idea, finding a main idea in a comprehension text, right? You can find videos and resources, not just videos, but you can find like literal resources, websites, worksheets, printables to kind of help your child get to where that is. And then sometimes you can even see strategies that are hands off and more project based, however your philosophy of learning is for your child. And you can use that as well to help them grow. All right. But it all just takes effort. It all just takes a mindset to be like, I want the best for you. And that I might not even be able to give you the best as far as supplies right now. And that's something that maybe you also need to work on as well, and maybe getting into more financial literacy courses or something like that to kind of make sure that you're able to budget and manage your money so you can do those things, right? Because that's a problem if you can't provide at least the needs for your child's education or the needs for your child, period. But that right there, showing up in that way and having quality time and sitting with your child and doing the work is worth way more than sneakers. It's worth way more than the latest technology entertainment piece. Just plug it in, okay? iPad, iPhone, whatever that may be. It could even be just TV. I don't know. It could be anything because you just never know. But a want. So over the need and the want. That the need which is you. They need you. Your children need you. That's way more important than any name brand or any item you can get your child, right? That's just gonna, it's gonna seem, they're gonna be happy for the moment, but they're really gonna remember the time they spent with you, right? The times that, you know, it was a little hard and they're trying to learn something, the concept, and y'all were both kind of struggling with it. They're gonna remember that, right? Over, you know, the instant gratification of just getting something. That's really not really gonna move the needle as far as making your child a better person, honestly, because it's so superficial materialism. So we are at the 30-minute mark. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. The school supplies debate is just a symbol of something bigger. How we choose to invest in our kids. I'm gonna say that again. The school supply debate is just a symbol of something bigger. How we choose to invest in our kids. How are you investing in your kids? Supplies are temporary, but showing your kids that you value their education, you value their success, that lasts forever. Okay? So thank you so much for tuning in today. I really enjoyed this live. If you are actually watching the recording, go ahead and comment below your thoughts on this. So what do you think about the school supplies debate? And if is there anything in here that resonated with you? I would love to hear about it in the comments. Okay? And if you like content like this, go ahead and like and subscribe. Also turn that notification bell so you can be alerted anytime I drop a live video or drop a long form video. I'm working on it, y'all. Okay, I'm trying to be better. I'm trying to get these videos out. I'm trying to get these lives out. My lives are gonna be more social. It's gonna be more about like social topics and education news topics, and also Q&As eventually. So once I start, I have a lot of stuff dropping, but a lot of different ideas and stuff. But once I start dropping strategies and tips on better homeschooling, better, you know, just how you can show up for your kids a lot better based on my experience, research, based learning, etc. That's all going to be up here, and then I'll be on live for Q&As if you guys have any questions. You can even ask questions under the videos as well, and I'll also comment where I can, okay? So thank you guys so much for your time, and I will see y'all later. Bye-bye. I am trying to X out.